I used to believe my wife was perfect. Now I know she was perfectly deceptive. 12 years. That's how long Melissa and I had been married when everything fell apart. We met in college, Ohio State, sophomore year economics class. She was brilliant, driven, the kind of woman who could argue fiscal policy over breakfast and still remember to pack Jake's lunch with a handwritten note. We built something beautiful together in our suburban Columbus home. 2 kids, Jake, now 12, and Emma, 10 years old with my stubborn streak but Melissa's quick smile. For years, our rhythm worked perfectly. I handled the day-to-day while Melissa climbed the corporate ladder at Morrison Marketing. When her promotion to senior account director came through 6 months ago, requiring frequent travel, I was genuinely proud. At first, the travel felt manageable. Chicago for a pharmaceutical client, Atlanta for a tech startup, Boston for financial services. Melissa was meticulous about communication, forwarding hotel confirmations, sharing detailed itineraries, calling every night to say goodnight to the kids. But subtle changes began creeping in around month 3. She'd return from trips more distant, going straight to the shower before hugging anyone. Her phone, once casually left on kitchen counters, now lived in her purse. Conversations about work became vague. Just the usual client drama, she'd say, or boring strategy sessions. The name Richard started appearing more frequently. Her boss, she explained. He's really pushing the team to think bigger, she'd mention. Richard wanted this. Richard suggested that. Richard thought the Q4 numbers looked promising. Then came the physical changes. Designer clothes I didn't recognize appeared in her closet. Client meetings, she'd explain when I asked. Need to look the part. Her workout routine intensified. New attention to skincare and makeup. She looked incredible, more vibrant than she'd been in years. The children noticed, too. Emma asked one Tuesday evening, "Why doesn't Mom eat dinner with us anymore?" "She's working really hard right now," I explained, helping Emma with math homework. Jake was less diplomatic. "She used to care about my games. Now she just asks about them later. Like she's checking a box," he complained. I defended Melissa automatically, but privately, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Late-night texting sessions that ended abruptly when I entered the room. Mysterious. Phone calls taken in the garage. Weekend catch-up work that required her to leave the house for hours. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening in early November. Melissa announced another trip, this one to Chicago for a weekend pharmaceutical conference. She provided unusual detail, specific hotel, conference agenda, even planned dinner reservations. The precision felt defensive. "The Marriott downtown," she repeated, showing me the confirmation email. 3 days of presentations on digital marketing strategies for healthcare. Something in her tone triggered my instincts. After 14 years together, including 2 years of dating before marriage, I knew Melissa's tells. The way she touched her wedding ring when lying, the excessive detail that suggested preparation rather than casual planning. That night, I lay, awake wrestling with suspicions that felt both paranoid and inevitable. In the morning, watching her pack with unusual care, clothes I'd never seen, perfume she saved for special occasions, I made a decision that would change everything. I would surprise her in Chicago. Take the kids, make it a spontaneous family. Weekend on Friday afternoon, after Melissa's flight had departed, I called her assistant to coordinate our surprise visit. "I'm sorry, Mr. Reynolds," Janet said, confusion clear in her voice. "There's no pharmaceutical conference this weekend. Mrs. Reynolds doesn't have any company travel scheduled until next month." The line went quiet except for the sound of my world cracking apart. The drive to Chicago should have taken 4 hours. With Jake and Emma chattering excitedly about surprising Mom, it felt like the longest journey of my life. "Do you think she'll cry when she sees us?" Emma asked, bouncing in her seat. "Happy tears, I mean. Mom always cries at good surprises," Jake added, though his tone carried skepticism that matched my growing dread. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. "She'll be so surprised she won't know what to say," I replied to them. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone GPS guided us through Chicago's downtown maze while my mind raced through possibilities. Maybe Melissa had gotten conference details wrong. Maybe I was about to humiliate myself based on paranoid delusions. But Janet's confusion had been genuine. No pharmaceutical conference, no company travel scheduled. The Marriott downtown loomed. Ahead, its glass facade reflecting the late afternoon sun. I'd studied the hotel layout online, memorizing pool locations and meeting room configurations. If Melissa was there for legitimate business, I'd find her in a conference room. If she wasn't... "Can we swim in the hotel pool?" Emma asked as I parked. "We'll see." "Let's find Mom first," I answered. The lobby was elegant marble and warm lighting filled with actual business travelers. I approached the front desk with forced confidence. "I'm looking for my wife, Melissa Reynolds. She's here for a conference," I told the clerk. The desk clerk checked her system. "I show a Melissa Reynolds registered, but sir, there's no conference scheduled this weekend," she replied. "She mentioned she might be working by the pool," I said casually. Jake and Emma flanked me as we navigated toward the pool area. "Wait in the lobby," I told them suddenly, parental instincts kicking in. "Let me check if Mom's available first." They protested, but something in my voice made them obey. I left them by the gift shop, their excitement dimming into confusion. The pool area was accessed through a courtyard surrounded by guest room balconies. November in Chicago was too cold for swimming, but the space was heated and enclosed. I pushed through glass doors, immediately scanning for Melissa's distinctive blonde hair. I found her. She was lounging on a poolside chair, wearing a red bikini. I'd never seen before, her hair loose in a way she never wore it at home. A man sat beside her, mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, expensive watch. His hand rested casually on her thigh. Richard. It had to be Richard. They were laughing at something on his phone, completely absorbed in each other. Melissa leaned into him, her head on his shoulder, wearing her wedding ring like a mockery of everything we'd built. The intimacy was unmistakable. This wasn't business. This was a couple comfortable in their relationship. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and started recording. Every detail seared into memory. How she traced patterns on his chest, how he kissed her temple, the satisfied smile I hadn't seen in months. The video captured everything. Her face clearly visible, her wedding ring glinting, the obvious physical intimacy. "Dad?" Jake's voice came from behind me. I spun around to find Jake and Emma there, their faces registering confusion, then understanding, then horror. Emma's gasp was audible. Jake went completely still, his 12-year-old mind processing something no child should witness. The sound caught Melissa's attention. She looked up and saw us through the glass, her face cycling through shock, panic, and desperate calculation. She jumped up, yanking on a cover-up, stumbling in her haste. "David, I can explain," she started desperately. "Kids, go back to the lobby. Now!" I commanded. My voice was eerily calm, the kind of controlled tone that scared my children more than yelling would have. They obeyed immediately, Emma already crying, Jake's face a mask of adult disappointment. "This isn't what it looks like," Melissa began, words tumbling together. "Richard and I were just... The company has been so stressful." "Stop," I said firmly. She stopped. "We're going home," I told her, my voice carrying finality that surprised even me. "Don't follow us. Don't call. Don't text. We'll talk when I'm ready." "David, please, you don't understand," she pleaded. "I understand perfectly," I replied coldly. I walked away, leaving her standing there in desperation. The children were waiting. By the car, Jake helping Emma with her seatbelt, both unnaturally quiet. The drive home was 4 hours of silence broken only by Emma's occasional sniffles. I drove through darkness, my mind no longer racing with paranoid possibilities but calculating. In my rearview mirror, I watched my children sleep and made a silent vow. She won't destroy what's left of our family. Monday morning arrived with artificial normalcy. I made breakfast, packed lunches, drove the kids to school, then sat in my car and called the law offices of Sarah. I need a divorce attorney, I told her receptionist, and I need the best one you have. Sarah's office was intimidating, floor to ceiling, law books, diplomas from Harvard, a view of downtown Columbus that suggested serious billable hours. Sarah herself was mid-40s, sharp-eyed, with professional demeanor that inspired both confidence and fear. "Tell me what happened," she said. After I'd seated myself across from her mahogany desk, I showed her the video. She watched it twice, making notes, her expression unreadable. When she finished, she looked up with what might have been sympathy. "This is about as clear-cut as adultery gets. Video evidence, witnesses, documentation of deception. In Ohio, adultery still matters for asset division and custody arrangements. This changes everything in your favor," she explained. "What do I need to do?" I asked. "Document everything. Financial records, communication patterns, evidence of the affair's duration, and scope. The more methodical you are now, the more leverage you'll have later," she advised. Over the next 3 weeks, I became a forensic accountant of my own marriage. Every credit card statement revealed expensive dinners for two during her business trips, hotel charges that didn't match her supposed itineraries, jewelry purchases I'd never seen. Her phone record showed constant communication with Richard's number, hundreds of texts and calls during work hours and late into the night. The deeper I dug, the clearer the timeline became. The affair had started 3 months ago, coinciding with her increased travel schedule. Richard, as her boss, had been creating fake business trips to cover their romantic getaways. Meanwhile, Melissa returned from Chicago in full panic mode. She sensed the shift immediately, my polite but cold responses, the children's avoidance, conversations dying when she entered rooms. Her attempts at damage control were desperate and transparent. Expensive gifts appeared, a gaming system for Jake, art supplies for Emma, a watch I'd mentioned months earlier. "I thought we could plan a family vacation," she announced over dinner Tuesday night, voice artificially bright. "Maybe somewhere warm for Thanksgiving break?" Jake looked at his plate. Emma glanced at me before answering. "That sounds nice, Mom," she said politely. But nothing was nice anymore. The children had processed what they'd witnessed with brutal clarity. Emma asked if Mommy didn't love Daddy anymore. Jake wanted to know if we were getting divorced. I answered, "Honestly, sometimes adults make choices that hurt families, but I would always protect them." Melissa's panic intensified when she realized I wasn't confronting her directly. She'd prepared for angry accusations, dramatic fights. My silence was more unsettling than rage. "Are you upset about something?" she asked one evening, her voice tentative. "Should I be?" I replied neutrally. "You've been distant lately," she observed nervously. "I've been thinking about trust, about how well we really know the people closest to us," I answered thoughtfully. Her face went pale, but she didn't confess. I maintained routine while documenting every lie that came out of Melissa's mouth. I started carrying a digital recorder, capturing conversations where she fabricated work stories. The security cameras were Sarah's suggestion. I installed them while Melissa was at work, small devices that looked like smoke detectors. The cameras captured everything. Melissa pacing our kitchen during long phone calls, frustrated conversations with Richard about handling David, and keeping the situation under control. Most damning was her attempt to delete phone records from our shared computer, unaware. I'd already copied everything. The real breakthrough came on a Thursday evening. Melissa stepped onto our back deck for a call, not realizing the security system had external coverage. I don't know what he knows, I heard her say anxiously. He's acting strange, but he hasn't said anything direct. Richard's voice was faint but audible. If he had proof, he would have confronted you by now, he replied. I can't keep lying to the kids. Emma keeps asking why I'm sad, and Jake barely looks at me anymore, she complained. Then maybe we should tell them the truth about your marriage, about how unhappy you've been, he suggested. They discussed their weekend in Chicago, laughing about how domestic I'd looked standing there. With the children, that recording became the centerpiece of Sarah's legal strategy. It proved ongoing adultery and demonstrated premeditated deception. The final piece fell into place when Melissa admitted to falsifying expense reports, using company funds for romantic getaways. I had everything: proof of adultery, financial fraud, emotional manipulation, and conspiracy. More than enough to destroy her professionally, legally, and personally. As I organized evidence, Melissa called from the kitchen. David, can we talk tonight? After the kids are asleep? I feel like we need to reconnect, she said hopefully. Sure, I called back, sealing the envelope containing her termination. Tomorrow, her world would start burning. Melissa's world began, collapsing before she realized I'd been the architect of her destruction. It started with a phone call at 8:47 a.m. on Friday. I was making coffee when her cell phone rang. Richard's name flashing on the screen she'd carelessly left on the kitchen counter. Good morning, handsome, she answered with casual intimacy. The voice on the other end was sharp, professional, unfamiliar. Mrs. Reynolds, this is Patricia Mills from Human Resources. We need you in the office immediately, the woman said sternly. Melissa's face went white. I thought this was... Why is HR calling from Richard's phone? She asked, confused. Mr. Garrett is no longer with the company. Please report to my office within the hour, Patricia replied curtly. I sipped my coffee, maintaining perfect composure. Everything okay? I asked with feigned concern. Richard's been fired. They want to see me, she said, panic creeping into her voice. That's strange. Any idea why? I responded innocently. She searched my face for signs of knowledge. I gave her nothing, just mild concern, while Melissa rushed to her termination meeting, Phase 2 activated. Richard's wife Carol received a detailed email containing the pool video, financial records, and audio recordings. I'd researched Carol. Garrett, a pediatric nurse, married 24 years, 2 daughters in college. She deserved to know. By noon, Melissa was home, fired for ethics violations and misuse of company funds. Richard had been terminated immediately, his 20-year career destroyed. She found me in our kitchen, organizing school permission slips with methodical calm. You did this, she said, her voice deadly quiet. I documented your choices. There's a difference, I replied calmly. You recorded me. You've been spying on me, she accused. I've been protecting our family, I stated matter-of-factly. The confrontation I'd prepared for finally arrived. Melissa's shock transformed into rage, then desperate manipulation. Richard meant nothing, she began, her voice taking on a pleading tone. It was just stress relief, the pressure at work, feeling unappreciated at home. Stop, I commanded. You abandoned this marriage years ago, David. You stopped seeing me as a woman. I was lonely, she continued desperately. The kids saw you with him, Melissa. They saw their mother betray their father. Do you understand what you've done to them? I interrupted, my voice hard. Genuine remorse flickered across her face. But it was too late. I pulled out divorce papers, sliding them across our kitchen table. Full custody to me. You get supervised visitation. Asset division heavily favors the non-adulterous spouse. The house, cars, retirement accounts, most stays with the children and me. She read quickly, her face cycling through disbelief and panic. You can't do this. I'm their mother, she protested. You were their mother. Now you're the woman who chose an affair over their stability, I replied coldly. "I'll fight this," she threatened. "Melissa, I have 3 months of evidence. Financial fraud, emotional manipulation, conspiracy. But more than that, I have Jake and Emma's statements to the court-appointed advocate," I informed her. Her face went ashen. "You involved the children?" she asked in horror. "They chose to write letters to the judge about how your deception affected them. Jake wrote that he used to trust you completely, but now questions every word you say. Emma wrote that she's afraid to love people because they might lie like Mommy did," I explained mercilessly. Each word landed like a physical blow. Melissa sobbed into her hands. "Richard's wife filed for divorce yesterday. Your affair cost him his marriage, career, and financial future." I showed her a printed email. "This morning, I forwarded your termination notice to your industry contacts. Your reputation in this city is finished." Her sobs intensified. "I also contacted your parents. They received the same evidence package. Your father called this morning. He's disappointed but not surprised." I continued relentlessly. "That broke her completely. Your sister knows too. And your college friends. And our neighbors. Everyone who matters in your life now knows exactly what you chose over your family," I added. "You've destroyed me," she whispered through her tears. "No, Melissa, you destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone could see the wreckage clearly," I corrected her. Her final desperate gambit was predictable. "I'll kill myself if you take everything from me," she threatened weakly. "No, you won't. You're too narcissistic for genuine self-harm. But if you're serious, I can have you involuntarily committed." "That would make the custody case even more clear-cut," I responded dismissively. "The children are at school," I said, checking my watch. "You have 3 hours to pack and leave. I've rented you an apartment across town. First month paid. After that, you're on your own." "I want to say goodbye to Jake and Emma," she pleaded. "They don't want to see you. Jake asked me specifically to make sure you were gone before they got home," I told her bluntly. She packed in numb silence while I supervised. As she loaded the last bag, she turned back one final time. "I loved you, David," she said softly. "Love doesn't plan 3 months of lies. Love doesn't use children as props for deception," I replied firmly. She climbed into her car without another word. I watched her drive away until her taillights disappeared. The victory felt complete but hollow. Not because I regretted it, but because I wondered what kind of man I'd become. When Jake and Emma got home, they found me preparing their favorite dinner. Neither asked about their mother's absence. Somehow, they already knew she was gone for good. 6 months later, I sat in the same kitchen where I'd served Melissa divorce papers, watching Emma work on an art project while Jake helped with dinner. The rhythm of our new life had settled into something I hadn't expected: peace. Melissa lived in a small apartment across town, working as an assistant account manager at a minor marketing firm. Her industry reputation had recovered slightly, but ethics violations followed her. Richard's divorce had been finalized. His ex-wife received generous alimony that left him financially gutted. Their affair had ended messily once consequences arrived. The children were healing, though scars remained. Emma saw a counselor every other week, working through trust issues. Jake had become my fierce protector, screening phone calls and asking serious questions about any woman who looked at me twice. We'd created new traditions: Saturday morning pancakes, Wednesday movie nights, Sunday bike rides. The house felt lighter, without hidden phones and fabricated work stories. Meals weren't interrupted by suspicious calls. Melissa was allowed supervised visitation twice monthly, court-mandated sessions with a social worker present. The children attended dutifully, but without enthusiasm. Emma was polite but distant. Jake barely spoke, answering with single words and avoiding eye contact. I didn't date. The thought of introducing another woman into our healing process felt premature. My focus remained entirely on rebuilding the foundation Melissa had shattered. Some nights after the children were asleep, I reflected on the man I'd become during those weeks of calculated revenge. The strategic documentation, the methodical destruction of Melissa's relationships, it had been necessary, but it had changed me. Yet I felt no regret. Melissa had gambled our family's future on her affair. She'd lied to our children's faces, used them as props for deception. My response had been proportional, comprehensive consequences for comprehensive betrayal. Tonight, as Emma finished her art project, a drawing of our family that included only the three of us, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Chicago: contentment. Jake looked up from the salad he was preparing. "Dad, are you okay? You look sad," he asked with concern. "Not sad, just thinking about us. About how strong we've become," I answered honestly. He nodded with the wisdom of a child forced to mature too quickly. "We're better without her, aren't we?" he asked quietly. "We're exactly who we need to be," I replied. Later that evening, I stood in our backyard looking up at barely visible stars. Melissa had thought she was clever enough to have everything: marriage security, affair excitement, children's admiration, career respect. Instead, she'd lost what mattered most. Her betrayal hadn't just ended our marriage. It had revealed who she truly was. My response hadn't been about punishment alone. It had been about protection. Protecting my children from further deception, protecting our financial future, protecting the possibility that Jake and Emma could still believe in honesty. She thought she was clever enough to have everything. Instead, she lost what mattered most, and I made sure she'd never forget the cost of betrayal. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.